Wholesalers, it's Rob Shore at Wholesaler Masterminds, and you may be thinking to yourself, Rob, you're thinking, what do you have besides this amazing podcast? And I'm so glad you asked. Wholesaler Masterminds has an assortment of product and services all designed around the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. As an example, we have coaching services designed to help you power wash your practice, whether you have 2 years or 22 years. We'll offer you speaking live engagements at divisional or national sales meetings. Our scheduling service has dedicated professionals trained in the art of getting you more appointments, Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers. Our Speakers Bureau brings you amazing speakers and processes to get better return on investment out of those speakers. And finally, our partnership, our newest partnership with Allego. If you have Allego and want to get the Wholesaler Masterminds channel on your Allego platform, please let us know. Wholesaler Masterminds, happy to bring you this podcast and so much more. Wholesaler Masterminds, the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. How many of you guys are on LinkedIn? Guys and girls. All the hands in the audience are going up, I know. And we've done shows before on LinkedIn. Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting, though, to bring in a LinkedIn influencer. Yeah, you know, when you see those demarcations on LinkedIn, these are folks whose insights, whose knowledge, whose base is influential enough such that LinkedIn presents them in this rarefied way. And we found one through Wholesaler Mastermind Speakers Bureau who wants to talk to us about forming deeper relationships through LinkedIn. And to give you an example, and I don't say this in a self-aggrandizing way, I have approximately 6,000 followers, approximately 6,000 connections, but do I know any of them? And the answer is, well, just a small fraction of 12,000 people do I know. Can I know them better? How can I know them better? Our guest today is going to help us with that. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Our guest today is Peterson Stone, and she delivers the most effective and profitable online relationship building based on real-world results. Now, in 2009, she founded and currently runs a digital marketing agency, commonsensehealth.org. And she does that within, as the name might imply, the health and wellness space. Now, under her leadership, she's directed relationship building campaigns that have generated hundreds of thousands of followers, subscribers, and tribe members who then become consumers hungry for the next product or service offered by the firms or individuals that she helps. Kim has learned the power of effectively communicating your message to your target audience, maximizing your reach, and turning visibility into sales. As I mentioned earlier, she's an influencer with over 169,000 followers on LinkedIn, 240 different articles on productivity, social selling, and how to acquire clients by finding more common ground on which to build relationships. We are going to pick her brain today. Peterson Stone, welcome to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show.
Thank you so much, Rob. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's delightful to have you here. Let's get right down to it. I want to use your valuable time and expertise to drill straight in on an area of LinkedIn that I feel wholesalers underutilize. And the reason I say this is in the coaching practice, I do review profiles on LinkedIn. It is not the core work of what we do, but sometimes a wholesaler will say, gee, I know I can do better in this. How can you help me? And so I'll do a thorough review and I will make recommendations. And inevitably, one of the areas that I find that they can perform better in is the area of the summary section. So what I want to do today is take the goodness that you bring when it comes to relationship development and relationship building, and I want to tie that back to, in a very myopic fashion, this summary section on LinkedIn, which gives us 2,500, 3,000 characters to be able to use to really paint a fantastic picture of who we are to the reader and wholesalers, don't make any mistake. Don't make any mistake that you are not being sought out to be learned more about on LinkedIn. So, Kim, are you game for that? Should we take a look at that together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're absolutely spot on, Rob, in that that is a section that is very underutilized. And as we all know, it's competitive out there. There are a lot of accomplished individuals. But what binds us together and what provides interest in whether or not we want to get to know another individual or do business with another individual is common ground, right? Places that you live, where you went to school, the things that you have interest in, what types of groups you hang out with, what you enjoy doing, and putting a flavor of that into your summary is a great way to draw people in, rather than bullet pointing accomplishments. And there's a time and a place for all of that. But, giving a little bit of insight as to the type of individual you are and what you are going to do to make their lives better is really a great way to draw people in, to have them, encourage them rather, to want to learn more and to go down. I encourage people too, because I do believe that LinkedIn and your presence online in general, whether we're talking about any of the other platforms, is a living, breathing thing. It's not something that you should do once and set in stone and then it's there for 3 years. I think that it's something that needs to be revisited like every 6 months or so. And if you keep a Google Doc or whatever tool that you use where you have the date of when you made the change to your summary, then you can kind of take a look at how many people are hitting your site or your page rather, how many inquiries you're getting, how you're coming up in search results, and you can tweak and move as you move forward then based on data. So if you have a record of that, it just helps you be a little more effective as you're really kind of honing in on putting together a quality summary.
All right, let me ask you a question here. So you said a couple things in there that I want to pick around a little bit. First is a very tactical question. Should I be writing this in first person or third person?
That depends on. There are people that say definitively it should be like this. But it really depends on your positioning and how you want to come across and what's going on at LinkedIn at the time. Because what is a definitive today could be completely different tomorrow because things have changed and shifted, and you need to be aware of that. If you do it in first person and it's this is what I can do for you, that's very easy to digest by the person coming to see you, and you know what you've done, and you've been in your world for the entire time you've been on this planet. But this is an individual who's just coming across you for the first time, so you do want to draw them in. It's a friendly environment. Come on in, let's talk, let's chat, let's talk a little bit more about what I can do for you, not about how great I am.
Well, I want to pivot off that for 1 second, because the other thing that plagues me is and it's interesting if you watch kind of the development of what's happening at LinkedIn, and I know that I'm on there relentlessly. It's a great source of opportunity and business for our firm. How do I draw the line? And we haven't even got into the nuts and bolts of what a summary might look like. But as I'm thinking about crafting this, one intuitive approach if I'm a wholesaler is I will just, as you said, I would be tempted to use bullet points. I'm going to stay in my tie buttoned up. That top button will be buttoned, and the tie will be snug tight up to my neck in terms of my professionalism in how I approach this. At the other end of the spectrum is the cocktail party that is Facebook. But it feels like, am I wrong to think it feels like there's a little more personalization, a little more warmth, perhaps, coming into LinkedIn? Is that a fair statement?
People do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and we know this, right? That's an overused cliche, but it's true. So if you are able to create a welcoming environment initially, and there's something that sparks an interest, someone on the other end to go further, then yes. Now, with that being said, though, Rob, I would also say that there are also people that maybe kind of take it a little bit too Facebooky, right? And you've probably seen that as well. And again, it depends on your industry and the language that you speak and the type of people that you're trying to attract. But certainly things are changing in terms of what defines professionalism, and much more transparency is of interest. And by that I mean not just you being defined by your brand or the products that you represent or the big corporations that you represent, but the type of individual that you are. So that when deciding to do business with you or whether or not you're going to have my back in a business situation, I want to know a little bit more about you. And that is the fine line that we walk. It definitely is not Facebooky. However, I would say, in terms of just relationship building online in general, Facebook is a great way to get a little more information about people that you're doing business with, but don't convey that vibe on LinkedIn. Rather than having the top button buttoned and the tie snug around the neck, maybe loosen the tie, maybe lose it entirely and unbutton the top button, but don't go any further than that. That would be maybe a good kind of rule of thumb as you're communicating. You want to be human, but you don't want to be, completely cocktail party.
All right. So I'm not sitting in my Speedo right in my summary section. All right. I got that. And you'll never be able to unsee that. So that's okay. What are some of the component pieces of the summary section? In other words, how do I launch into it? And may I make this one observation, and I hope you agree with it. And if you don't, gosh darn it, I'm going to make it anyway. I find that people ignore their contact information in more obvious places on LinkedIn. I shouldn't have to scroll to the bottom. So one of the things that I say to clients is, for gosh sakes, early in your summary section, give me your email address, give me a phone number, because I don't want to have to search for how to get in touch with you, especially when I need to get in touch with you. What are your thoughts on that? And then how do I launch into a summary section? What am I supposed to start with? I mean, how do I talk about myself in 500 words, 1,000 words on LinkedIn?
First of all, addressing your contact information. If you have a way for people to contact you that is very, very, very straightforward. So in other words, do not drive them to a gigantic web page where they have lots and lots of choices.
No.
So get them to where, if you're comfortable with having your contact information where they can reach you directly, then that is brilliant and that's fantastic. Absolutely. Some of the things that you may want to address. Why do you do what you do? Why did you pick the products that you promote? How did you get into it? What led you to this point? What path led you to doing what you do? Rather than, I do this is how I do it, we've won these many awards and blah 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 blah. Why? What inspires you in this particular line of work? Giving a little bit of background as to how you got into it and how you reached this point, why you're passionate about it. That's a really great door opener, because then especially in this space, because you really have to put a huge amount of trust out there, right? Is this someone who really is going to help me achieve my goals? Well, if it's someone who's passionate about what they do, not only do they represent a reputable company and offer quality products and services, but they like it because of this, and this, that gives me a better indication as to whether or not I want to pick up the phone or get a quick email off to this person. So put a little feeling behind how you got to where you are. Give some thought to that initially. And I always tell people too, if you're not comfortable crafting the wording, hire it out. There are plenty of freelancing sites out there. If you are comfortable with bullet points, get your bullet points together and then hire it out to someone with a little bit more finesse with words, so that you can put something together that really kind of sets you apart from everybody else who's doing it the same way.
Let's offer a solution for that. I see it's written in your notes. I'll let you do the honor, because it's one of my favorite sites, but go ahead.
Fiverr
Yeah.
or Freelancer? Yeah, Fiverr is great. Fiverr. And the only thing that I would say if you're new to the site is do some due diligence on the people that you are checking into. Check their ratings, communicate with them via email or via on the site there just to see how proficient they are in English. If they have a tendency to work within your particular niche, just do a little research. It really doesn't take a huge amount of time, but Fiverr is phenomenal. I've had them do everything from logos to videos to PowerPoint presentations. I mean, to writing bios. It's a great resource.
You said something early on in the conversation that's rattling around my head, most likely because I'm guilty of it, and that is not checking back on your profile, not updating your profile, not refreshing your profile, putting something out there and you blink and it's 5 years later and it's the same pitch, it's the same autobiographical information. Wholesalers, I think that's an important point. If you have a summary section, when was the last time you revised it? In your experience section, when was the last time you updated it? In your experience section, how robust is it? That's another notion. So, in terms of frequency, what do you think makes sense? I mean, I don't have time nor an interest in updating my summary section with quarterly precision. But what do you suggest makes sense?
If you commit to take a look every 6 months or so, because that's also a good time to reflect on the types of people that you're doing business with, kind of what the trends are in the industry, if there's any change in the terminology or anything of that nature. That gives you an opportunity to really kind of give some thought as to how things maybe have changed in the previous 6 months, because that's another thing too. You don't want your speak to sound dated, right? You want to sound as if you are engaged and you are relevant and you know what's going on and what's coming up and all of that. So, and that window gets shorter and shorter as technology develops faster and faster. So, but realistically, to your point, Rob, who wants to review this every couple of weeks or quarterly or whatever? That just is not a very good use of time. But I think every 6 months is a good rule of thumb. And also, I encourage people to follow people who they would like to become more like. And these could be people within your industry. These could be people outside of your industry. I absolutely pay attention to people in all different types. My space is financial services and health and medical. However, I follow people in real estate and in SaaS and in lots of different developing industries, because I know that it will make me better and keep me on the cutting edge of what's going on to follow them. And then that also gives you kind of some indication as to wording and trends and things of that nature that you may want to kind of buff and polish on your own profile.
One of the things that you talk about too is that the summary section should speak a little about what you are passionate about. And I know you mentioned that perhaps on the list of things that you could potentially put on there, but that one stood out to me because that might be something that by nature of the buttoned upness of LinkedIn that I referred to earlier, that you encouraged me to loosen my tie, that might have been overlooked. So I should spend a moment, perhaps not paragraphs on end, but I should spend a moment having people be able to see what I'm about, so that I'm passionate about dogs. I'm passionate about wine. I'm passionate about a particular charity. Those are things that people would be interested in knowing about me that humanizes the experience. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly. And as you know, you can list those in your interest. You can share that in various forms of communication. But if you do have a basic overview of why you're passionate about what you do, that's really important. And the things that you are passionate about, which what you do maybe fuels those things, right? So that it all kind of comes full circle as to why you do what you do and the type of person that you are. And in terms of taking relationships online, offline, or offline, online, you never know. You may run across someone who also likes mountain biking or is a foodie or would enjoy a trip to wine country, or maybe you met somebody on a trip to wine country and you connect with them on LinkedIn because it's a great way to, kind of put them in your online profile basket, and you can keep in touch with one another that way. I tell you, that tip alone is so huge. Rather than having back in the days of Rolodexes or big, huge stacks of business cards on your desk, just grabbing that individual and connecting with them on LinkedIn is a phenomenal way to keep abreast of one another's activities and where you are, and maybe you're moving companies or whatever. But that's just a piece of how it can really work to keep the wholeness of your network together, but expressing, again, in your summary, why you're passionate about what you do. That then fuels the things that you do on your free time. Again, finding common ground with those people that you're looking to do business with. Perfect way and a perfect place to do that.
Wholesalers, we have been somewhat disingenuous to Kim in that she has 20 plus years of extraordinary experience in this relationship building online, offline world. And we have spent but 16, 17, 18 minutes with her on one very myopic topic, which I asked her to do because I think it's underutilized, and I think you can do a better job with it. And I think based upon her guidance, we can get more lift out of the content that we provide on LinkedIn and the relationships that we're able to form as a result of it. So Kim Peterson Stone, thank you for allowing us to be so focused today.
Oh, it was an honor, Rob. I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity.
Wholesalers, come back next time for the episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.